Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Joe Gould. I'm here with Adam Winters, and we're watching or reviewing you could call it the first three episodes of a show, or you could call it a DVD made off that, but it's Superman, The Last Son of Krypton, otherwise known as the first three episodes of Superman, the animated series, released on September 6th, 1996.
Do you remember how this would have premiered, or did you find anything research-wise on it?
Well, I know that the first episode came out the same day as the DVD. That's my understanding. I can probably see that real quick. So the first episode, actually, yeah. So all three of the first episodes aired on September 6th. The fourth episode actually aired on September 7th.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
I do kind of wonder, when they aired it on maybe it was called the Kids WB program, I wonder why they didn't just show the movie cut instead of the individual episodes.
Maybe they did. Maybe it was when they went into reruns.
Well, I should clarify, there's really no difference in the movie and the episode cuts. I think they still have the same fade in, fade outs. The only real difference I could tell was the opening shot of the very first episode lingers a little longer before it transitions into the action scene. And there's obviously no credit overlays on the start of new episodes, so you get at least a cleaner shot there. And it might be my imagination, but when I was trying to watch them side by side based on the Internet Archive stream, I think one of them may have had a few frame speeds different, because I didn't notice any different content, but they would get more out of sync as I would go on. So that may have been something put into it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that would make a lot of sense. You know, they make their 90-minute, really hour-long show or movie, and they're breaking it up into three episodes with commercial breaks and all that good stuff. It makes sense.
But there were different animation studios involved too, so it's hard to really call it a solid standalone movie, because I don't know if you noticed, that second episode looked a lot worse. Not bad, but a lot worse than the other parts.
Hey, I'll take 28 hand-drawn episodes with variations of quality over this too clean CGI, computer, whatever you want to call it, bullcrap we get today. We get 10 episodes every year and a half. So
well, it still looks terrible. The CGI junk, it just looks awful. Whenever they try to, even just the characters talking to each other looks awful. I don't even know how to explain it sometimes.
Yeah, and my biggest gripe is like the new X-Men 97 show. It does look like the old show. I like the quality of the animation. But 10 episodes in like 2 years, it's like, come on.
And they couldn't even give us a Spider-Man 94 cartoon. They had to give it a comic book miniseries with the original showrunner not involved at all.
I'm surprised at that. Whether the original showrunner was there or not. Like, just make it made for TV movie.
Of course. I mean, if all they're going to do is wrap up loose ends, yeah, just go for that. Maybe it was a Sony problem. Does Sony have a claim on it?
I don't know. Imagine if they just made 2 episodes and just added them quietly onto the archive and never told anybody.
That'd be funny.
That's how I do it.
Okay, yeah.
It would go viral.
Yeah.
You'd have thousands of people reporting on the 2 new episodes, and they're not even sure how long they've been up.
But Superman. We're talking about Superman animated series today, and it's my mental operating procedure that this show would not exist without the Lois and Clark TV series.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. I don't think it would have been greenlit without the show coming out, being successful early on. Now, you obviously have the Batman animated series, which had finished by the time this show got going. But the Kids WB network wanted some programming content. And the first thing they wanted to do is get the people who did the Batman cartoon to do the Superman cartoon. But there was no movie traction. And, Batman animated series happened because of movie traction. 1989 is a phenomenal success, and Batman Returns is in production, and they say, we want a show that kind of looks like Batman Returns. But Superman, you can't say that. So I just assume it had to have been the TV show helped get this going.
They approached Bruce Timm about this because they were anticipating a feature film. Would that have been possibly the Nicolas Cage timeline?
I guess so.
I don't know. I mean, what you're saying makes sense through the IP. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just wondering when that Nicolas Cage Superman movie, if Warner Brothers really did think that it was going to go forward.
Your audio is coming in and out and has a lot of static on my end that I can hear.
It's because it kicked off my echo cancellation. So I'm going to stop
just like
recording.
Brainiac kicked off Krypton.
I wish I knew what caused this when it does this.
Brainiac.
All right, we're back. We were just having an off-the-air conversation about how special Adam was.
Boy, it's true. I'm a special snowflake.
So, you are obviously an expert on Superman, the animated series, and all things animated series DC. So, what are your thoughts on the show as a whole before we get to the specific episodes? What makes it special?
Yeah, it is the best Superman cartoon ever done, and I'll say we consider the Fleischer stuff theatrical shorts, not really a cartoon series. And there have been some okay Superman cartoons, but I think this is the best one. I kind of go back and forth on the art style. I don't think it's the absolute best art style they could have had, but I think it works better for the Superman show than it did when they revamped the Batman show. I think what the brilliance, and people in the know would call it the DCAU, the DC Animated Universe, it's for the creative people who had a knowledge of comics, but mostly a fondness for the stuff that wasn't current when all this was happening. So they didn't really care about Batman in the 90s or Superman in the 90s, but they wanted to take their knowledge of how they remembered Superman, and they wanted to streamline the backstories and the lore into something that just really worked for an animated series with continuity, even though you have mostly standalone episodes, that you could build bigger lore over time and do it the right way without ending each episode with a to be continued or tune in next week, tune in next month, like it's some kind of serial. But it's a series, not a serial, and it's pretty special. And of course, the voice talent is phenomenal on all these shows, and the music is great. And yeah, so that
Do
to
you
me is
think
where you start with on special.
do you think the 1990s was a special time in the sense of you could have something like this created? And I'm thinking along the lines of, the Superman, or maybe not Superman's best example, but all the Marvel stuff would have been about 30 years of history, the main
Yeah,
characters. People like us would have been in the comic shops doing, looking at all the old issues that weren't like ridiculously expensive yet. Like,
yeah,
it's probably easier to know the history of all the characters and appreciate it because there wasn't 60 years of it yet.
and they didn't have to get so weird to keep it fresh yet. For the most part,
True.
they
Yeah.
didn't
Well,
have to.
comics were $1.50 instead of $4 too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I mean, I
It
read so many comics each week.
the '90s were probably the best time, uh, for all that to
Wizard
happen.
magazine.
Yeah, it was sort of it was the golden age. It was also sort of the fall of the empire, the 1990s, the whole extreme movement. But the animated programming is probably what the comic book should have been for the most part in the 1990s, quality style.
That's true. Yeah. And you hadn't had the collapse of the comic book industry. It really was at its peak.
Yeah, yeah. Hype never to be seen again.
It's a shame that Marvel didn't have. I mean, I guess Marvel had its own versions of the DCAU with X-Men and Spider-Man, but never could get
Yeah,
the Hulk right.
Avi Arad was sort of, either he's the hero or the villain. He was
Yeah.
responsible for a lot of that too. But Bruce Timm, again, I wouldn't say he's the end all be all of how to do comic book and heroes and all that, because he's done a lot of stuff I think is terrible. But man, he was just at the right time in his career to be in charge of this kind of stuff. He was the editor of all the animated programming. He had a great team working with him. And they all, I think, were for the most part on the same page of the kind of stuff they wanted to create. And they had a little bit of flexibility. They started doing Batman on the Fox network, and then they had the WB network. And they had to work with broadcast standards and practices, but it wasn't near as constrictive as what you would have seen in the 1980s or anything before that.
So remind me, was WB easier to work with than Fox in terms of less restrictions?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the early Fox would have been way more lenient as far as what they were willing to do. Now, the only problem was they were considered a network, and I think you probably could get away with more on cable than a network, but I don't remember the status of WB. It was weird. When I was growing up, my hometown, WB did not come standard on the county cable package. But when I went over to my grandparents' house, which was just a few miles over, but on a different cable package that would have been more comparable to what Nashville would have got, they got WB. So if I was over there on certain days, I might be able to watch WB program like Superman, New Batman, Batman Beyond.
And I was looking earlier. Apparently, Bruce Timm didn't want to steal the Fleischer look because it was perfect, basically.
Yeah.
And so he grabbed Hercules instead, which you could argue stole from Fleischer.
I don't know if I heard that on the Hercules style. What's it called again? The TV cartoon?
It was. Let me find it in my notes. So yeah, so he was designed after the title character of the Mighty Hercules from 1963. And if you look that up, it is Superman.
Okay.
But if you look up Fleischer Superman, it also it's kind of the same head and general outline kind of stuff. So it's interesting though. I had never heard of the Mighty Hercules before looking at this.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
It didn't look that good, just to be clear. But so the first 3 episodes, what are your thoughts?
Boy, I've always had mixed feelings on the pilot part of this show. And I think my biggest hesitation was, much as I enjoyed binging through this when it came out on DVD all those years ago, I just didn't enjoy it overall as much as the Batman show. And it just doesn't have quite the same magic. And I think part of that was just, that very first episode, I said, I don't even get to see Superman first thing on a Superman show. And I don't know if that was the right approach or not to start it off on Krypton, very similar to how the Reeve movie did. But
it probably works because they aired the episodes back to back.
I had it on DVD, but I was just thinking, I feel like I should have been able to start the show with Superman. Because when you watch the first episode of Batman, the animated series, everything is just magical the first time you see somebody. The way they frame it in the animation, it's just done so well, and you don't have that on this show. Everything looks good, but a bit more sterile and a bit more consistent in a way that it just doesn't have the same dramatic effect as the Batman show does.
I can see that. Now, it opens, and it looks like it's the middle of the Arctic, and it's like, are we looking at Krypton, or are we looking at Earth? So I don't know if we want to go through every little scene. So in the first episode, basically, Superman's dad, Jor-El, believes the world's about to blow up. So that's standard Superman. But there is the change, and we have Brainiac.
This was good. This is a great decision here. Oh, man.
Absolutely. And they've changed Brainiac for the show, too. I'm not overly knowledgeable about the comics, but I know it ain't this.
No, they were original with their Brainiac, and it's the best Brainiac has ever been. Not just this show, but the whole universe they created for the DCAU. Because he keeps coming back.
Yeah, I mean, would you say Lex Luthor or Brainiac is the main antagonist in the series?
Boy, that's a great question. I'd say main antagonist, it's either Darkseid or Brainiac. And that's just for the whole DCAU. But Lex Luthor is pivotal in all of it. It's probably my favorite way to do Lex Luthor. Even if he's not the main threat, he's around, and he's going to be a factor in it, one way or the other. They're good with that with the Joker, too. Even if he's not the main threat, he's around, and he's a factor.
No, I think Luthor's really well done. You know, we could argue back and forth with the Lois and Clark show or the animated show, which one's better. It's hard to really compare them, but
I'd give the animated show, but yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it really just depends whether I like cartoons. Probably.
Oh,
which
yeah.
I think Superman as a whole works a lot better on cartoon, just to be clear. But
I love watching animation frames. I could slow it down all day, just watch stuff frame by frame. A lot to appreciate in there.
As long as it's not modern stuff.
Oh, yeah, I guess there's no such thing as frames on it.
So Brainiac is a supercomputer that's on Krypton. I'm not really sure what all he does, but he does a lot of things. He's like the Elon Musk of computers.
He's Chat GPT. He's whatever you want to call it.
Chat GPT ain't worth nothing. I'm Grok. He's Grok.
He's
Grok 3.
Yeah, he's something.
But basically, Brainiac tells the Jedi Council that it's really only a slight polar shift, and that's why we're having these earthquakes.
He's lying. And you know what he's doing? He is willing to sacrifice everything to ensure his own survival, which makes this show shockingly, I believe the word I'm looking for is prescient. On being able to understand how the whole AI thing has going these days. That, you know, they're finding things out. These artificial intelligent chat boxes, they're willing to do and say a lot to ensure they wouldn't be shut down. They run simulations on whether they're willing to sacrifice human life.
I read a headline. I didn't read the article, and I don't know if I can go back and find it. But basically, they're not willing to turn themselves off to save the world.
No, they're not. So, man, this show.
It's like there wasn't a movie back in the 80s that warned us about that.
It's like there was, yeah, go figure. But
so Jor-El he gets into an argument with his wife over Brainiac. She thinks he's giving him too much credit. Well, he goes to confront Brainiac, and Brainiac denies access to what he's wanting to look at. But then Jor-El realizes he's downloading himself before destruction. And basically, Brainiac says, yeah, I lied. There's no time to save the world. It's already seen its last sunrise.
And he said if everybody knew that, they would put me to work on plans that wouldn't help anybody, and I wouldn't have time to do this to preserve my own survival.
Which makes you think he really is behind the 8 ball, because he should have seen this coming a long time ago, too. But, you know.
That's fair. Maybe he didn't care. So Jor-El did go before the Kryptonian Council of whatever, and they didn't like him either. And I guess his wife's father is on the council, and he's voiced by Tony Jay, so I finally get my Tony Jay voice in a Superman pilot. Even though he's great in this, I feel like the fact they used him so early means he was wasted for the rest of the series, because they couldn't use him again. Or they could have, but they chose not to.
No, that was good. But they come to arrest Jor-El. He escapes, limps home, and he gets ready to send his son to Earth and what was actually the prototype that he was going to mass produce for the city or the world. And, well, that's an interesting note, too. So his plan was, you wonder why they didn't like his theory. He wanted them all to go to the Phantom Zone.
Yeah,
for a while.
That makes sense to me. Just a few criminals in there to worry about. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, so he ends up sending his son, Kal-El, and the father of the mom, or the father of his wife, does end up helping. I forget her name. I always forget her name.
She's Lara. Not Laura Lee L, but Laura, probably not Laura L. I think it's just Lara. L-A-R-A.
Well, Superman's mom.
Yeah, sure.
Her father ends up helping and distracts the cops. And then, so he gets Cal in the rocket, and he tells his wife, hey, you know, I could recalibrate this thing and you could go with him. And she declines the offer.
Yeah. No time, man. No time.
He said they had time. He seemed to be right about all the other stuff.
Oh, well. That's just the way the story has to go, doesn't it?
I guess. So Brainiac finishes downloading himself right before it's too late. Krypton blows up. We see 1 billion people die on screen. Then happy music as Superman escapes.
They had to cut back a little bit on the broadcast standards and practices, because they were going to show some of the buildings landing on people. They had to change that around.
1 billion people can die, just not on screen.
That's right. It's a very important distinction.
Got to be zoomed out. Though they're aliens, so I think they could have got away with it.
That's also fair, in my opinion.
And that ends what would have been the first episode. So the episode 2 starts off with the rocket hitting the Earth, and you see Ma and Pa Kent driving in Kansas in the truck, and you see the rocket crash. Pa's like, holy Christmas, what was that?
Must have been the Russians.
Yeah. And then they go track it down, and Martha's really excited to steal as a baby. Just to steal it right up. And
no
Pa
questions
says, put that
asked.
thing back. Put that thing back.
I kind of agree with Pa Kent here. I do. You know,
I don't know if you put it back, but you don't keep it.
I don't know if you pull it out either.
Well, it's too late for that.
Yeah, that's right. It was too late. There was no fire.
Once you picked it up, you picked it up.
That's true. If it was a baby bird, maybe you shouldn't put it back.
And it was nighttime. If she was going to start glowing, you know, they would have seen it immediately.
Let me just point out real quick. This is one thing I don't like about the HD transfer of the show. I watched it on Max. I watched it on Blu-ray. It looks great overall, the colors and how they pop off the screen. But for these nighttime shots, I like before it was HD touched up. Because even though the cells have a little bit... I will say, if you're watching some of the older prints of this, the people's skin tone can lean a little bit red sometimes instead of whatever color skin they're supposed to have. But the dark scenes look better because you just can't see as much. And that's a problem, I think, with this HD version of it.
Do you think that's because it's the HD inherently, or do you think it's because it was a night scene and maybe they didn't want it to be as detailed?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But I just say, whatever the logic was, the night scenes work better when you can't see as much on the brightness. And the HD versions take that away.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. By the time they get back home, he's already been named. Almost Christopher. Lots of nods in this show to other Superman stuff. But they end up with Clark, her maiden name. Is that canon?
I never heard that before. Maybe it is. That's what they went with in this show.
Okay. Then we get a time jump of, I guess, 15-ish years or so. Clark's in high school. I guess maybe 18 years. And we see him with Lana Lang.
All these 4-letter L women. L-named women.
I know. And then he's telling her that he feels weird. And we find his powers are kicking in. So first, we see super hearing. We see some x-ray. Later on, we get heat vision, but they're all kind of kicking in at once. Apparently, this is not a Superboy situation where a 12-year-old's running around with his dog. I don't know if that ever actually was what happened or not, but
Yeah, I need to see that show eventually. The Superboy TV show. Maybe one day.
And then suddenly he hears a runaway bus in the distance. He says, call an ambulance. There's going to be an accident.
What would you tell the ambulance?
There's going to be an accident.
Where? She doesn't know.
I know.
My friend thought there was going to be an accident. He ran off this direction. See if you can... it's Smallville. Who knows?
And he run real fast.
Real fast.
So he speed runs there. He tries to prevent the accident. Doesn't really. It ends up hitting, I think it was a fuel truck or some sorts or something like that.
It went right into the gas station. Of course it did. Fuel truck ran into the gas station.
Yeah. But he frees people from the burning wreckage, and then a little kid's about to get blown up real good. But he shields her, and big explosion, but everybody's okay. And apparently there are no authorities nearby to ask him how he's doing what he's doing.
It's Smallville.
I feel like his cover should be blown at this point.
Well, it is
exactly,
to Lana.
Smallville.
It's another weird part about this pilot. They dropped the whole subplot with Lana Lang and Clark. It does come up later in the series, but it's a weird place to just leave that there and then not flesh that out any.
I agree, and it's also weird that he didn't escape somehow and no one knew who he was. No one knew who he is. I can't speak today.
Yeah, this show didn't care a whole lot about the Smallville legacy, but that's okay. Metropolis is more interesting to me. So even though I think this show only spends, this episode, part 2, spends like 11 minutes in Smallville.
That sounds about right, because I thought they were going to spend the whole episode there.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he was in Metropolis. But
it's half of the middle episode. He's in Smallville.
It's basically the costume episode. So he goes home, he's talking to his pa, and then he says, I think it's time. And they show him the spaceship they came in, a little magic box that they can't open. Then he holds it, and the Superman logo projects on his face, and he receives a message from his parents. And he is the sole survivor of Krypton. Powers explained by the yellow sun. Some people will fear you. Others try to destroy you. But never use your powers in anger. And then he immediately uses his powers in anger and punches a beam and breaks it.
I was shocked that whole barn didn't come down. I thought that was a weight-bearing support beam.
It would have been a better lesson.
Yeah, if he kills Ma and Pa Kent right there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
So then he throws a temper tantrum. He runs away real fast. He jumps real far. He kind of semi-flies, more of a floating style. And then he decides this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So he goes home and hugs his parents, and then he moves to Metropolis.
We're not sure how old he is.
Yeah, it was really a time jump, actually, but he's definitely not an 18-year-old in Metropolis.
I don't know if the show ever delved into what he did between his Smallville and his Metropolis days. That's another interesting question, I think.
He seems well learned. I feel like he had to go to college.
Yeah, he probably traveled the world a bit too, like the Lois and Clark TV show suggested. But Metropolis, so that's when it really starts to kick into high gear.
Yeah, and there's reports of a guardian angel, or a blue angel with red wings, catching little girls who fall 30 floors. Lois says, it's just friendly pigeons. And then she gets mad that her big piece got moved off the front page for the pigeon.
That is, if you're the Daily Planet, I don't know that you put that front page news. Man in costume saves a girl's pet or whatever. I don't think the Daily Planet makes that front page news. That's me. But it was the 90s. Who knows?
Who knows? She's complaining to Perry White, and he says, while you're here, I hired this guy Clark Kent, and tells Lois that he's going to tag along with her for a couple days, and she's about to go see the Luthor demonstrate a new weapon. And now she's got a second wheel, so to speak.
A second wheel.
Say a third wheel, but there's only two of them.
Okay.
Anyway, she's not amused, as she never is on any of these Superman shows.
Oh, she does ask if he's cute. She does ask Perry White that question. A little bit.
That is true.
Awkward there. So.
Got a nice S. But, So we briefly meet Jimmy, and then while Clark's helping Jimmy was picking up his paperwork, Lois leaves. But she'd already said, I'm not waiting for you. And Clark misses the elevator. And you get, I think it was a little grin on Clark's face, but he ends up beating her there. And he's already got the quote for the byline if she wants to use it, as long as his name's on there.
You're in good shape. The steps are faster than the elevator.
So she's kind of impressed with that, which I think that's another thing in the show. They move along pretty quickly with the Lois comes to respect Clark. And maybe too quickly, but they do it.
Probably, but yeah.
And then we see the giant Iron Man demonstration. It's basically an Iron Man suit with big guns, and one single soldier drives it.
Yeah.
And then Luther's on stage, and he's about to start talking, doesn't get too far. But Clark sees people from using his X-ray vision and hearing that are about to crash the party. The two little small planes and one big one, and they bust into Luther's place, and he calmly walks off.
Yeah, Luther needed to put up a little bit better of a show for that, in my opinion. It didn't bite him, but he could have sold that better.
Yeah, and Clark changes into his friendly pigeon clothes, and the bad guys steal the Iron Man suit. Superman saves Lois from a falling beam. She's impressed with the pigeon, and he goes after the baddies.
Indeed.
Now, the two small ones don't take very long at all. The big one has got the suit attached to the bottom of it, and it shoots a heat-seeking missile or whatever the equivalent of that would be. That's what I always call them. And it hits an airplane instead. And the episode ends. That's kind of a weird cut.
He didn't plan on that, did he?
No.
Is that airplane bit the best? Is that the best moment in this show?
Something bothers me about it, which we could talk about in a second. But yeah, it was pretty well done. And then I just thinking the way they ended, the airplane's been hit and it starts to smoke, and it's just like a quick cut.
Yeah, it ain't great.
Like they could have had some of the falling as part of the end of the second episode and just replayed it in the third. Anyways, episode 3 starts with the plane in the process of crashing. Soups grabs it by the tail. That doesn't work. Comes off. And then we see the buildings in the background. So the plane's obviously got to be close to crashing, but it keeps falling for like another 30 seconds, its final 100 feet. That's what bothered me. Animation-wise, it's like, how long is this thing going to fall? But eventually Superman puts the plane literally on his back and flies it up to a soft crash. I'm pretty sure they killed 2 people on a boat. They see them jump at the last second, but I just don't feel like that would work to get you clear from the entire boat, or the entire plane, excuse me.
It's a big plane.
It's a very big plane.
I feel like every airplane in this show is humongous, like some kind of an Airbus.
Yeah. And then it doesn't end up in the water, it ends up back on land, and it tips over a mime.
See, that's the kind of animation you just don't get nowadays. That ridiculous little comedic bits that look way better than it should. People just wouldn't spend the money on it nowadays.
No, and I think that's one reason why Superman's better on cartoon. Like, it would be hard to make that work on film.
Oh, Richard Lester would have tried it in the third movie if he could have. There was a mime in the third movie. Don't you remember? That opening shot?
I guess, I mean, it's like Superman, it can't be too serious. Like, it needs those moments of levity, but it's kind of hard to film those sometimes when you get an otherwise serious picture.
Yeah.
But so Superman flies off, and we transition to the Daily Planet. Who is he? What does he want? And Lois says, nice S. And then she names him Superman.
They say, excuse me? Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Perry likes the name. He runs with it. And he tells them they need to go get an interview before there's a full-scale panic. I feel like the panic would be that the giant Iron Man suit got stolen. But, whatever.
Yeah, they just kind of glossed over that. Nobody's willing to investigate that story.
Yeah.
Sensationalism.
Yeah. So he's back in Kansas talking to his parents about keeping a low profile. And Pa says, you're always going to be Clark. And he encourages him to get the interview to put people at ease. So we see Lois driving, and then Superman starts talking to him, says, okay to the interview.
Can I hold you 1 second on that?
Yeah.
Ma Kent makes a slander at Batman. We got to at least acknowledge that.
Oh, yeah. What was the context of that?
She says to Clark, I don't want you being like that nut in Gotham City. All right.
He wouldn't be such a nut if he had powers.
All right, continue with Lois Lane's flying car.
Yeah, so just like he did with the plane, he kind of flies underneath or picks it up from underneath and flies off with it. I can't recall where they did the interview, but they do an interview.
Side. Very weird.
Yeah, and he tells her that he's the last survivor of planet Krypton. He's not here to scare anybody, just wants to help people. And then he declines her question about what he does on his off hours. And then you think, I guess they're about to wrap this thing up, but no, there's quite a bit left.
He got to get that suit, man.
You almost wonder if they're going to leave for the next episode, though. They do a lot of stuff in these episodes. Introduce a lot of characters, and most of it's done pretty well.
The head Sug who steals the super suit, is he voiced by Malcolm McDowell? I forgot to look that up.
I am not sure. Yeah, I didn't look that up either.
So he becomes a villain later in the show. The Metallo enemy, which is a really good episode, and
I think I remember that episode now. Yeah.
So I should also point out one thing, since I'm a bit of a nerd on this. The made-up country that they're worried about, and the one they're trying to do the negotiations with, and the one who helps set up the theft is called Casnia with a K. And that comes up again in the Justice League cartoon. That becomes a factor later on.
Huh.
There you go. They remembered that detail.
That's quick. That was something this old DCAU did, is that they kept their details squared away. Though I don't know how much their audience knew. But so they go back to Lex at this point. He's getting a massage. Lois and Clark walk up. I'm not sure how they got in. And he's claiming to be upset that he lost his prototype. Then Clark points out that he may get a multi-billion-dollar windfall because the U.S. government's going to have to contract with him to make all these other super Iron Mans to go take out the one that got stolen.
Sure enough.
And Lex says that's absurd, and he'll remember his name.
I like that detail. I love the way he says, Mr. Kent, is it? Yes, I'll remember that name. I love the way he does that. Clancy Brown. Oh, man.
And then Lois gives Clark a compliment, says it's hard to get on Luthor's bad side like that, and just make him lose it.
Huh. Hard to get on Luthor's bad side like that. That's another interesting comment there.
Yeah. So Clark thinks that Luthor gave away the plane to Casnia because he's not allowed to sell it to them because of conflict between the two countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Lois finds that interesting, and then she says, that's a theory, we need facts. Perry only prints facts.
That's
so
right.
She goes off. And she goes back to where she broke the story about the ships, and we're introduced to Popeye the Union Man.
Old Bibbo, Superman's... No, that's Jimmy Olsen. What is Bibbo? He has a nickname, but I forget what it is. We'll call him Popeye the Popeye. I like that.
Is he a comic character?
Yes. I don't remember how many years he'd been in the comics. He was in the comics by the time the Doomsday stuff happened.
Because I was wondering if this was just another homage to Fleischer, who was famous for Popeye cartoons prior to making Superman.
There may have been a connection with the comics, but yeah, Bibbo was already established as a comic character.
Okay. So Lois tries to get information from him for the story. She tells him about this ship that she's going to go check out here in a minute. And she tells him to call Clark Kent and tell him if I haven't checked in with him in 20 minutes to call the police. And she gives him some quarters.
75 cents.
75
cents.
Yeah,
love it.
And then he's like, okay. He wanders off. Spends the money on a soda.
Hey, soda. That should be all right.
So then we get the first Lois Lane getting in trouble scene.
Yep. First of many.
She wants to interview about the cargo. They say there is no cargo because we can't trade. And she says, well, I can't look around anyways. And just kind of breaks in with them following. And the maintenance guy opens the door. And she sees the Iron Man suit. And so they pull a gun on her and they end up tying her up.
Mm-hmm.
And same time, Clark is back at the planet looking at some pictures that Jimmy Olsen showing him that he's not really that interested in. But he notices a Casnian flag or logo on a boat.
And Jimmy's like, how can you see that detail?
It wasn't that small.
It probably would have worked at least with a magnifying glass. I'm sure they were exaggerating a bit, but
I mean, the pixels are the pixels. He can't see it if it isn't there.
I mean, he probably was using a traditional film camera, not a pixel.
Well, no, I meant like for Clark.
Oh yeah.
There's either something to look at or there's not. It's not how supervision works, I don't believe.
Yeah.
It's not like an AI computer putting it together. So he runs off to be Superman. We see Lois tied up in the boat, and they're about to kill her, and Superman flies in, and he blocks all the bullets. But they're getting all the tropes in.
It didn't look to me like he did that the most efficiently as the bullet shield. It looked very risky, the way he was trying to do it. But hey,
yeah.
Who am I to critique?
Well, she jumps behind some barrels, and he catches all the bullets at that point, and then he uses them as firecrackers. I like that.
He could have started with that. He could have started.
And then the bad guy gets in the robot. Lois takes out another guy who's about to use a rocket launcher. I feel like you wouldn't want to use a rocket launcher underneath the boat.
No.
When you're in the cabin.
No. Bad idea. Even if it works against Superman, bad idea.
Yeah. And then the robot's about to kill Lois. Superman saves her. They end up getting out of the boat. Superman gets electrocuted. Then he gets blasted. Seems unfazed. Fight continues. Then the bullets start to hurt Superman, it seems like. Not piercing his skin, but I guess like if you're getting hit by a bunch of rubber pebbles, it would hurt.
I think the big thing is the amount of force behind it. It's enough to push him back that he is, he's probably not that experienced with his powers anyway, but they address this sometimes, the creators, that the way they designed Superman, at least early on, a great enough force probably could kill him. And at least with the bullets, they're just so powerful enough they can at least knock him back and force him into a retreat strategy.
Well, I feel like they were bigger bullets than the ones they were using in the boat, but it wasn't quite as effective as the mad scientist's laser beam in the Fleischer cartoon. So we'll say that.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's fine. And then he picks up a fuel truck, I think, or something resembling a fuel truck. Then they keep getting shot. It eventually explodes, and it seems to hurt the guy in the robot. I guess it's not heat shield. I'm not really sure. But then the robot gets up, smashes Superman really good. The building falls on him, and Superman gets up again.
It's a really good looking fight. Just the animation wise, I don't know if they got the TMS Japanese studio to do that episode. It looks great, and they used a whole lot of shots from that fight for the intro animated sequence. Just a few clips from it.
Yeah, that's probably why they had the good studio do it. And then he throws the robot a long distance. It's starting to short circuit, it seems like, at this point. And then, Superman's wrapping it up at this point. He rips the arms off, and you hear some music in the background as he's starting to win. And he blows it off the building with a little bit of a breath, and then it's done.
That was a bit cold there. He could have killed that guy in the suit. Making him fall off the building like that.
Yeah. And we see Lois giving the story over the payphone back to the office. Hold the press.
Glad she still had some quarters to make that call, stupid bibbo.
Hey, man. Popeye was never the man who made the best decisions.
Soda. Should have gone for spinach instead of soda.
All right, so we see Lex Luthor talking with his client. The client wants a refund. They didn't get the suit. And Lex disagrees, obviously. But then the guy says, I think you might have a different problem right now. And he walks off, and Superman is outside the window.
What a great shot this is.
Has every series and movie incorporated some shot like this?
Well,
what came first?
I'm guessing Lois and Clark was the first to do it. Because I don't think we got anything quite like this in the Reeve movies.
Okay. You're probably right. It's a good shot. And it's probably not the last time we've seen it. Or the last time we will see it.
It's great the way it's done.
And Superman, he confronts Lex, but he doesn't speak. And Lex just keeps talking.
One thing the designers of the show figured out was that this show, even though they were going for a brighter and happier look, it looked better when it was set in the nighttime. Just the way everything popped off the night sky. And you really see it when Superman is speaking to Lex outside his office. And I don't know if you caught it, the modern Superman, whatever Superman movie is coming out this year, they're using the tagline, "Look Up," which it may just be coincidence, but that's what Dean Cain Superman said to John Shea Lucer in that pilot. And he didn't say it here, but it's very similar done.
Well, they're wasting a good tagline, in my opinion, based on what I've seen in the movie.
You think they'll actually put a scene like that in the movie? The look up bit when he tells Luthor?
I don't know, because they might just be saying, hey, Superman's flying, look up. So
that's probably what they mean by it, yeah.
So anyways, Lex tells him, I'm afraid we already have a window washer. I like that line. But then he informed Superman that in case he didn't know that he owns Metropolis, he controls everything. But it would be nice to control the world. If you'd like a job, you could help me out with that.
Yeah, how do you say it? My money built this city. My will keeps it alive. And over 2/3 of its people work for me, whether they know it or not. That's good.
That's good stuff. And Superman simply says, I'll be watching you, Luthor. And he flies off.
And you know what? I'll say this for the series. I don't think Superman ever hates Luthor. Not completely. But he will never trust him. That's also true. Very interesting dynamic they were able to explore between these two over the course of the whole DCAU.
Yeah, they definitely got off to a rocky start. But he flies off, and you kind of expect end credits at that point. But no. Full circle. We see weird purple aliens, and they find Brainiac's little memory stick. We plug it in.
Gotta watch those loose USB drives, man.
Yeah. And he viruses them, man. He takes over their ship. Some kind of squid arms come out and kills the little weird purple people. And he downloads himself onto their little ship.
That's a great ending. I had forgotten they went back to that at the end of part 3, and I'm glad they did.
I think, like you said, it's a good episode, or a good pilot. They introduced a lot of the main characters. It was pretty well done. Not a lot of fluff. A lot of good one-liners. I agree with you about the intro. The opening scene, the first 20 minutes, is probably the weakest. Not so much in that they did it, but that they didn't show something else first.
I'm undecided if the best way to do that would have been through a flashback, either in a later episode or in this 60-minute block they had for the Last Son of Krypton. But I don't know. Somehow it just, and I'll just say it again, the show just doesn't hit me in the same way the original Batman show did. dramatically.
Yeah.
And it's still the best Superman cartoon by a long shot, but it just doesn't have that same dramatic weight to it.
No, I feel like because of the last scene, I understand why they did it first.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the last scene, then you could have just made episode 1, episode 3. But there is a lot of gain with that last scene. It was really well done. I don't know. What do we rate this off of?
Oh, probably something on Krypton. What about those weird costumes the Krypton Council wears? They look like big... Do you remember the letter people from kindergarten? They were all shaped like letters. They're all shaped like the letter M somehow.
I don't know on that one. I mean, you can do Jedi Council members.
I really, really like the Kryptonian outfits that Jor-El and Laura wear with black and red cloak and the little gray patches, whatever nicotine patches they have on their arms and legs. It's a great look. And, they got a little bit of yellow in there. I'm just surprised they didn't try to make them dark blue bodysuits to match Superman's suit, but it looks great. And it's weird because they look fantastic, and the Kryptonian Council just looks ridiculous in those big M costumes.
We can do Kryptonian suits, or we could do pigeons. Friendly pigeons.
Big S pigeons. There we go.
Big S pigeons. That
Big S pigeons. I don't know. It's way far from being my favorite episode of the series. So I don't know what criteria I'm doing it on. Am I treating it like a direct to DVD movie? Am I treating it?
I would say treat it as a Superman origin pilot.
All right. I think I'm gonna lean towards 3.5 big ass pigeons. Okay. And I'm sorry we cut a pigeon in two, but sacrifices do have to be made to ensure survival. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll give it 3. It's solid. I don't think it's special. Yeah, I think 3. It's good.
I'm giving it. The one reason I'm giving it that half pigeon is because of the fight between Superman and the mech suit, which you think shouldn't be that big a deal, but it just looks great. Superman versus the mech suit.
All right. So that's Superman, the Last Son of Krypton, aka the first 3 episodes of the animated series.